Everyone, welcome back to New Method Live. I am so excited that you're here. I get excited every week to do this. And today we're going to talk about why we're tired and how to fix it, right? So how many of you out here are exhausted all the time? Yeah? Okay, exhausted all the time. Or some of the time or have that afternoon crash. I know if I could see you, I know you'd be nodding. Yes, I know you're nodding. I know when I do this in front of people, everyone's like, oh yeah, that's me. And millions of people have this. This is a really common complaint. In fact, it's a common complaint we see in the office all the time. So today I'm going to talk about some of the reasons of why you might be feeling fatigued, because there's a million reasons. I could write a whole encyclopedia about it. So we'll just choose a few. And of course, I wouldn't be me if I didn't give you some tips and tricks on how to fix your energy levels. So today we're going to talk about why you're tired and how to fix it. And let's dive in and talk about the reasons of why you're fatigued and how to fix it. The very first thing I want you to do if you're fatigued is go to your PCP. I say this all the time. I say it when I'm live. I say it in my book. I say it on every video. If you're feeling fatigued or tired, you have to go to your PCP. It could be your favorite NP, your favorite PA, your favorite doc, whatever. You need to go to your PCP first and foremost. You have to first rule out an illness. I cannot stress this enough. I don't want you to listen to your friend at the gym or your cousin in Easter who says, yeah, I was so tired and then I did X, Y, and Z, now I'm better. We don't know. You have to rule out an illness first. You have to go to primary first. Let them run some tests. You have to run the thyroid test, not just TSH, by the way, T4, T3, antibodies, a full thyroid panel. Because if your thyroid is off, none of what I'm going to say matters. We have to fix that first. You have to check for anemia, because if you're anemic, guess what? You're going to be exhausted. And again, none of what I'm talking about today is going to matter if you're anemic. We have to fix that first. And you have to check to see if you have some sort of virus like mono, especially if it's a recent fatigue. I remember a few years ago, by the way, grown-ups get mono. It's not just a kid disease, it's not just a teenager disease, and it's not a kissing disease. So grown-ups get mono. I had mono a few years ago when I was in Atlanta. I was wiped out the entire trip. I thought there was something wrong with me, and there was. I had mono. So make sure if you have fatigue, first step, go to your PCP. Make sure that there's no illnesses. Now, if they tell you that you're fine, you're in the right place. My patients, my favorite patients are the ones that they went to their doc, their NP, their PA. They were advised that they're fine, but they're not feeling fine. And that's when you come to me and I say, hey, it's not in your head. Something's going on. And now we're going to talk about adrenal fatigue. I'm not going to go too deep into it because I have a whole video about it. Go ahead and check it out. I really spent some time delving into it, but I need you to understand what adrenal fatigue is, and this may be the source of your fatigue. So we have this cool hormone called cortisol, and one of its jobs is to wake you up in the morning. So it has to be really high in the morning. It wakes you up in the morning, and then throughout the day, it gets less and less and less until nighttime. Melatonin takes over, and then we go to sleep. So it's a perfect cortisol curve. But cortisol is also our stress hormone. If we don't feel good, whether it's mentally we're stressed or physically we're stressed, we're just trying to get through the day stressed, we go to the cortisol bank, we make a withdrawal to get through the day. Now, if we make a withdrawal once in a while, just like in your bank account, it's fine. But if you keep withdrawing every day and you don't take time to put back in, you get adrenal fatigue. The adrenals make cortisol and you're fatiguing them. Adrenal fatigue. And there's 3 stages to adrenal fatigue, 1, 2, and 3. I'm not going to go into it now, but we can actually test for it in your saliva, and we do it for all our game-changing patients. By the way, your primary doctor will probably say it doesn't exist, and that's okay. We're not talking to them right now. In conventional medicine, you either have normal, way too much, or way too little, but nothing in between. And that's all right. As I said, this talk is not for them, but adrenal fatigue is real, and we can test for it, and it's exhausting. So what happens when we have adrenal fatigue? For some of us, we have that dip in the afternoon. You know what I'm talking about. It's after lunch. You have that 3 p.m. meeting, and you're like, oh, man, I don't know how I'm getting through the second half of the day. What do? Tell me what you do, right? You're reaching for coffee or soda, frappuccino. You're reaching for a snack because you're trying to get through the second half of the day. That's a sign that you might have adrenal fatigue. But let's talk about the coffee and the sugar for a moment. Let's talk about caffeine, because it doesn't have to be coffee, right? It could be soda, it could be your Monster drink, it could be anything. So let's talk about caffeine. Caffeine, yeah, we know it's the energy drink, right? It gets us going. But did you know that caffeine has a high and then a crash? I'm going to explain why. So we have our coffee. It gives us energy. The first thing it does, right, gets us hyped up. We get a little tachycardic. Our heart rate goes up a little bit. Sometimes we feel even a little anxious. All of that actually tells the cortisol levels, hey, we have stress. The body doesn't know it's just caffeine. It feels stress. So it goes to the cortisol bank and makes a withdrawal to get us through that. Now, we're not really stressed, right? There's nothing chasing us. There's nothing falling on us. We're just trying to get through that 3 o'clock Zoom meeting. Okay, don't schedule a meeting at 3 o'clock on Zoom. Really hard after lunch. But your body doesn't know that. It feels stressed. So it goes to the cortisol bank and again, brings us back to adrenal fatigue and makes us tired. The other thing that caffeine does, which I didn't know, I had to learn this, so I want to teach it to you because I love sharing information, is it blocks something called adenosine. Adenosine is a chemical that our body secretes very slowly throughout the day, little pulses throughout the day, so that it makes us drowsy, but it goes slowly throughout the day, preparing us for the nighttime. So the body releases adenosine here, and then you have receptors here, and throughout the day, it kind of pulsates. Caffeine sits on the receptors. It doesn't let the adenosine get here. So you're feeling awake, you're feeling awesome, but your body's still producing it. So eventually the caffeine gets metabolized, it's gone, and now you have all this adenosine that's sitting here, boom, goes on the receptors, makes you tired. And what do? You reach for another cup of coffee. And here we go again. And you're stuck in a caffeine loop. So we really need to be careful with that because you get that short-term high and then you have a crash. And then, of course, you already know that caffeine is a sleep disruptor. If you have caffeine too late in the evening, what happens? You don't sleep. So that's kind of a given with caffeine as well. So watch the caffeine. I'm not against caffeine. I have coffee in the morning. Anyone who knows me, I have coffee with collagen in it, by the way. Little tip, put the collagen in your coffee, you get it in. So I have my coffee collagen drink in the morning, but it is a problem after 12. It is going to be a sleep disruptor. It is going to get you into a caffeine loop. So reconsider it. Okay. And again, it doesn't have to be coffee. Pay attention to all your caffeine. So that brings us to sugar, because some of us are grabbing that coffee or that soda and a piece of chocolate, soda and a candy, soda, a cookie, whatever. Sugar is another one of those things, makes us go up and then we have a crash. Let's talk about that crash for a minute. The first reason it makes you crash is you get the sugar rush, you get cookies or chocolate or donuts or whatever, and your body's like, okay, we have a lot of sugar on board, insulin, let's go. We have something to do. So insulin comes rushing out to process all the sugar. So it processes all the sugar because it got a big dose of sugar. You give yourself a big dose of insulin. And then what happens? Boom. The sugar gets, metabolized, gets dissolved in a sense, gets metabolized. And now your sugar drops. And when your sugar drops, it's actually worse than caffeine. It's actually a sedative. It's actually exhausting. So what do? You reach for more sugar. And now you're stuck in this loop. More sugar, insulin, drop. More sugar, insulin, drop. And you're just like riding this wave of like fake energy and then a drop, fake energy and then a drop. And remember, when I say sugar, I don't just mean sugar or candy. It could be pasta, it could be a sandwich, it could be, anything with carbs in it. It's going to get processed when it's heavy, when it's a big load of it. It's going to get processed by the insulin and then leave you in a crash. So now let's talk about the things we can do for energy. We talked about adrenal fatigue. We talked about that coffee and sugar is not the answer. So what is the answer that will help me not feel so fatigued? Let me see. What's a really good way not to feel tired? Let me see. Can you think of one? How about sleep? How about actually sleeping at night? Yeah? Wouldn't that be cool? Like, are you exhausted at 3 p.m. but you didn't sleep at all last night? Like, what are you expecting from your body? And that happens a lot because we talk about diet and we talk about exercise, but we don't talk about sleep a lot. And sleep, in fact, we actually say, oh, if you really want to be successful, you have to wake up at 4 a.m. and get your stuff done, or really successful people don't sleep. And there's like this whole kind of, world around if you're really strong, you don't need sleep. That's all garbage. You have to sleep. In fact, you need to prioritize sleep just as much as you prioritize diet and exercise. The problem is we don't prioritize it. We don't think about sleep until we're in bed. And we don't think about everything we did throughout the day. So you have to prioritize sleep. Don't have the stimulants late in the afternoon because then you won't sleep. Make sure your evening is sleep inducive. It's not a time to have a big dessert. It's not a time to do a crazy workout. It's not a time to get into a heated political debate with someone. It's not a time to watch something agitating or scary. Make sure your evening is creating an environment so you can fall asleep. So prioritizing sleep is kind of like the duh moment about how you get my energy. Okay. So how do you get my energy? Sleep. And now let's talk about something else that can give us energy instead of coffee and sugar. Okay. Cold showers. Yeah, this is a hard one. I'm still getting used to it. My wife's a champ at this. God bless her. God bless you, honey. I end up talking about you every time I do a live. So cold showers. Cold showers in the morning. And by the way, it doesn't have to be a full cold shower. You take a regular shower, you do your thing, you do your hair, you do whatever. And then the last minute, you turn it to cold. It is the most invigorating thing you can imagine. But not only is it invigorating how it makes you feel, it actually does things to you chemically. It increases your metabolism, enhances recovery, reduces fatigue, which is what we're talking about, and it activates feel-good hormones like dopamine and improves our immune system. So we're actually feeling invigorated and awake without coffee. So try that whenever you can. Let me know how that works out. I'm still working on it. But like I said, some people are great at it. It's a great little trick. Movement, okay? Can't take a cold shower in the middle of the day. And if you can, that's a pretty cool job. Let me know where you work. But most of us can't take a cold shower in the middle of the day. So consider movement, a little bit of exercise. Exercise gives you energy. Again, this is not just in your head. It's actually on a molecular level. In our last live, when we talked about obesity, I mentioned something that has to do with mitochondria. Mitochondria is the powerhouse of the cell. I love saying that. It's the powerhouse of the cell. And when we exercise, we actually create more mitochondria. So we're creating more energy. So exercise actually creates energy for ourselves. And of course, it boosts our oxygen in our body, in our circulation. The more oxygen makes us more efficient, makes us better, faster, stronger, more awake machines. And of course, it releases all these feel-good hormones that come with exercise. Now, caveat to that is this. If you are a phase 3 adrenal fatigue person, exercise will deplete you. And if you don't know if you're in adrenal phase 3, if you're one of those people who, after you exercise, you need a nap, this advice is not for you. If you are depleted after exercise, don't use exercise as a source of energy, obviously. It might not be for you. For our people who have adrenal fatigue, our patients have adrenal fatigue phase 3, we first work on the adrenals and then later work on the exercise. But for everyone else, if you're one of those people who exercise invigorates you and gets you feeling awake, this is a great trick. So at 3 p.m., instead of reaching for the coffee or for the cookies, do 10 jumping jacks, walk around the block, do something, do some leg lifts right at your desk. This will boost your energy without any of the crashes. And that you could do in your office, just about any office. And then I need to talk to you about the timing of eating, intermittent fasting. Intermittent fasting seems to be our most popular conversation, our most popular video. If you haven't watched it, go ahead and watch it. But it's connected to so many things. And it's also connected to energy. Let me explain why. Remember I told you that sugar thing, right? I eat my sugar, insulin comes up, I drop down, I go up, I drop down. All of that is because our body is dependent on an external source of glucose. We need glucose to live. Everything gets broken down to glucose. But we're depending on this meal. If we don't get this meal, we get hangry, we get jittery, and then we need it again, right? That loop I was talking about. But your body has this really cool trick that it does. It's called gluconeogenesis, where the liver can take your fat stores and turn it into glucose. And the only time it does that is when you're fasting. So instead of constantly reaching for the next meal and reaching for the same snack, you can teach your body, hey, I don't have a meal for you right now. And your body will say, no problem, I got you. And it goes to the fat stores and it creates the glucose it needs. It takes time to get there, of course. We are shooting for a 14 to 16-hour fast when possible. Initially, it's going to be hard because your body's going to need it. You're going to feel jittery. But over time and with practice, you get to this place where you can skip a meal and not feel jittery anymore because your body can turn gluconeogenesis on. That's called metabolic flexibility. Sometimes I get a meal, sometimes I don't. And regardless, my sugar stays steady. And when the sugar stays steady, the energy stays steady. So I want you to consider intermittent fasting as a source of improving your energy. So let's recap my favorite part. First thing you do when you're tired, go to your PCP, your NP, your PA, your doc. You have to go. You have to start there. Always, always, always rule out disease first. Then, if everything is okay, we're going to consider adrenal fatigue, and that you can get tested with saliva. You can do it here at the new method, or any functional medicine provider can do that for you. Take a look at how much caffeine and sugar you're eating, because it's actually biting you in the butt. You're thinking it's giving you energy, but it's actually making things worse. Turn to more natural ways of improving energy, such as sleep. Sleep, I'm going to say that again. You have to sleep. You have to sleep. Okay, please go to sleep. Cold showers, movement, even if it's a few minutes of movement, and of course, intermittent fasting. And if this, it's a lot of information. If it gets confusing and you want to work with us, just let us know that you want to work with us. You could drop the word call below and we'll call you. Send us a message on the new method or thenewmethod.com. And at the end of the day, we want to make you a game changer in your life because you always knew there was a better way. I will see you guys next week.